G'day, 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 you absolute bunch of bloody legends. This is your old mate Loserbum back in the house with some quality, high production value internet content. I hope you're all doing very well. I'm doing much better. As you remember from last week, I had that bandage on my face because of the drop bear attack. So, yep, that's healed. There's only a tiny little scratch you can see here. I couldn't show you last week. I mean, before I had the bandage, I really looked like something like this. But the thing is, not many people know that. I have amazing healing powers, so I can go for something like this to something like this within the space of about a week. In fact, my healing powers are so awesome that back in the year 1999, when they were casting the first X-Men film and they were looking for someone to play Wolverine, they actually thought of me. They didn't want to spend all that expensive money on the CGI and the special effect for Wolverine's hyper healing factor, where it gets cut and he heals immediately within seconds. They say, hey, we'll just get Loserbum to do it, and we can save all the money on the special effects. And it was actually, the decision was taken, right? Bryan Singer, the director of the first one, said, yeah, we want that guy. But unfortunately, he'd forgotten my name. So he just told his assistant, yep, for Wolverine, I want that really good-looking Australian guy. Get him, sign him up for the movie. And the assistant was a bit confused and whatever, and by accident wound up signing Hugh Jackman. Now, fair dinkum, Hugh Jackman is an awesome guy. Did you know he was actually a school teacher in an earlier life? Not many people know that. And he did an awesome job. I absolutely love him in all the X-Men film, and the specific Wolverine films are just absolutely great. So he really, really deserves it. And you know, that's Hollywood superstar life. You have all the champagne, you have all the fans, women throwing themselves at you. That's just so stressful. I'm actually quite happy that he got the job. So, big shout out there to my friend Hugh. Us Australians have to stick together. So last week, what were we talking about last week? We were talking about burn-in, things like the command line. Exactly, we're talking about the text-based interfaces to computers. So here we have one. I said it's the command line. You have it on Windows, you have it on many other systems, Linux and whatever. And you can do this many things here, which you can also do in your graphical user interface. It's just less pretty. So if I want to look for the files on my computer, I'm here in my C drive Windows System 32 folder. Well, that's when I jump into the command line there when it that's where it lands. And here I can do a dir, which is a silly DOS command, but it just show me all the files which are in that folder. And you just saw those going past. And if I go to that, well, here I have the Windows Explorer, which is more graphical, but it's exactly the same files, right? So it's exactly the same content. You can see here right at the end, ztrace map DLL is one of the last ones, so that's how that works. And from here, I can then go to a different directory, so cd ... have to scroll up a bit or pull that up a bit so you can see it. So cd ... I'm now no longer in System 32, I'm now in the Windows directory, or even I'll go all the way up to the C drive. Here I can do this by clicking, and yep, this is all the folders I have in my C drive root folder. And here is the same thing. So, yep, it does. As I mentioned, back in the good old days, computers, this is all they had, especially home computers. Now, you did have computer games. Remember that screen we were looking at last year? That was a Pac-Man arcade game, which did have graphics. It had a waka 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 going on the screen, but it was expensive and it was purpose-built to play just this, which is why it was playing just Pac-Man, and which is why the screen got burnt in, and you had to pay, like put a coin in for every single game. Now, a little bit after these, home computers came in. And the first home computers had very, very poor graphics, not like today. In fact, in most cases, they would just behave like this. That's all you had. You had an interface like this. You could type some commands, and it would type back at you. But, because computers and computer games go together like something that goes together really well, people wanted to make games on these computers. And one of the first great ones, which I remember back then, which came out, was Zork. It was the Zork series, right? This is Zork 1, Zork 2, Zork 3. And here it is. And it was a series of computer games, and it was text only, right? You could only type. There was no graphics, and you could type, and I will show this to you. This is an awesome thing. We'll get into this. I'm now emulating a very old computer inside the browser. So we'll get into emulation into some other video, but basically this is taking us back in time. This is what a computer would look like and behave like, and when you loaded Zork into it, this is what you would get. And that's it. No graphics, only a text. Let me make that full screen. And yeah, you see how we have these massive pixels because, yep, that's what they looked like back then. Hey, can I? Oh, it's lost the video. But anyway, that's what they looked like back then. It was all text. So, yep, you are standing in an open field west of a white house with a boarded front door. There is a small mailbox here. What do I do? Okay, look at mailbox. The mailbox is closed. Okay, open mailbox. Opening the mailbox relieves a leaflet. So I'm going to get leaflet. Okay, I've taken the leaflet. By the way, I have here, I can now do inventory. And it's going to show you my inventory. I'm carrying a leaflet. So even today, with your fortnights and whatever, you have an inventory. That kind of goes all the way back to these. So let me read the leaflet. And it says, welcome to Zork, a game of adventure, danger, and low cunning, blah-de-blah-de-blah. See, 1982, so that is getting on for 40 years old. 2 more years, it'll be 40 years old. Infocom was a great games company back in the day. They don't exist anymore. And then, again, I can look. I'm west of the house, so maybe I want to go east. The door is boarded. I can't remove the board, so I can't go to the house. Maybe I can go north of that house. The windows are boarded up. To the north is a narrow path that goes through the trees. So let's go through the trees. And it describes, in the distance I hear a songbird, etc., etc. Hang on, it goes south again, east, behind the house. A small window which is slightly ajar. I can open the window. And with great effort, I open the window far enough to allow entry. Enter window? Because you never know exactly what text was the right one for here. Okay, and that threw me out of there. So what you saw there was with the same principle of a text-only based interface, no graphics, and it was a text-based adventure. It's also known as interactive fiction, and at the time, that was pretty revolutionary. It was not just a computer game and doing something, we had no graphics. How can we make a computer game? Well, you can type, you can talk. But it was also, especially in the case of Zork, it was interactive. It was like telling a story, but instead of reading a book where the words are predefined, you're interacting with the story and discovering the story as you go along. Now, Zork is fiendishly hard. I remember playing it back then and playing it for a long time and getting nowhere, but it was really seminal, was very important part of computer history, and it's an absolute legend. And back then, today you can just go play Zork. I'll put some links in the description on where you can play it online. And if you just Google Zork walkthrough, it'll tell you all the things you have to type in to win the game. But that's no fun. There's no discovery. And when I first played it in the Australian outback, nobody knew Zork. We didn't have internet, so we had to work it all out ourselves. There were some magazines and books, but maybe your magazine seller or your bookstore didn't have those. So it was very frustrating as well, because you'd gone a long way and you kept trying and you kept dying. In Zork, the way to die is to be eaten by a grue. If you're in the dark, you hear the grue, G-R-U-E, and it eats you. So you have things like inventory, you have things like north, south, east, west. You have that in your Fortnite as well, your WASD keys. You have things like dying, you have things like scores. So some of the very core fundamental items of computer games were already in there 40 years ago in this interactive fiction. So I was showing you that because Zork is cool. It's an absolute legend of a game. It's just absolute legend. And we will be going further into topics like text-based games as well as emulations and old computer games because, that's what we do here on this channel. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this content. There will be more coming along in this same direction, or maybe I'll wander off and do something completely different in the next video. Who knows? It's a mystery. Anyway, remember to like, share, and subscribe, and remember to tell your friends to like, share, and subscribe. I'm Loserbum, you're the internet, and all a bunch of bloody legends, and I'm out of here.